What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Fans with Attitude, the live sports talk show by fans for fans. You've seen First Take Undisputed. Well, this is just like that, except we have a live chat. So you guys watching on YouTube, you definitely can put in your comments, concerns, and we will see them during the video or the live stream. If you make sure you like and subscribe to join the Attitude Era, the fan base of the Friends with Attitude. Turn on your notifications so you know when we go live next time. Now let's get started. Today we have more information about the Steelers. Their general manager has come out and said that they're not ruling anybody out in Antonio Brown's trade talks. So, as a Patriots fan who thought they were once ruled out of this trade possibility, what are your thoughts?
I still don't see the possibility of them trading him to us. We've been, bitter rivals for the better part of this whole, 18-year span that we've been a dynasty. They've always been that team that's either, beating us in the regular season or we're playing in the the AFC Championship game, something like that. So even though, they finally said like, oh, we're not, taking anyone or we're not counting anyone out, I just don't see them, dealing directly to us. I thought it was interesting that they're willing to deal within the division. Usually that's like a big no-no in the NFL, it seems like, except for, I guess, the AFC East because our teams are stupid and give us all their players. But most teams don't do that. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I thought that was weird because I totally thought they were going to stay dead set with that whole, not willing to trade him to those four teams. But, I guess at this point, they're just taking the best offer they can get. So, do I think the Patriots will do it? No. But I just think it's interesting that at this point, there's like whatever we can get, we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy that I don't really think I feel like they just kind of came out and said it like, oh yeah, we'll trade him to anybody, and then the Pats are going to send him like, oh, you want a first round pick this year, next year, and they're going to be like, no. But I also saw a thing that's like they might just try and make it work with Antonio Brown, and I feel like then he would kind of pull a Le'Veon Bell type thing, where he would just kind of sit out because I don't think he wants to be with Big Ben at all. And Big Ben's had his tumultuous run with the Steelers, and Antonio Brown, their egos and things that have been said in the locker room. I don't think that relationship is repairable to the extent where Big Ben's going to be throwing him 15 touchdowns a year like he did this year. But now, speaking of another tumultuous quarterback, Johnny Manziel. Oh boy, he has been, what did you say, barred from half of the.
I read into it more. Not just half, the whole Canadian Football League. Johnny Manziel is not allowed to participate or sign a contract with any CFL team for the rest of his life, I guess. And I've tried reading into it, and there's no explanation given. It's basically just he's out, he's not allowed to come back, and that's how it is. So I don't see him coming back to the NFL. He clearly can't go back to the CFL. So, do you think this is the end of the line for him, or is he gonna, pop up somewhere else?
Unfortunately, I think this is probably the end of the line for him. He's had so many chances and opportunities, and maybe, it wasn't the drinking and the drugs that kind of kicked him out. I don't know. Yeah, apparently they haven't come out and said anything like you said. I think to play in the AAF or even the XFL, he'd be in a Kaepernick situation. He'd probably want more money than they have almost. So I think Johnny Manziel's done. It was fun while it lasted because watching him at A&M and then beating the Alabama team, that game was awesome. He was a fun player to watch, but he just had his demons and he couldn't fight them. And unfortunately, I think his football career is done.
Yeah, I could see the only thing I can envision is an AAF team or like you said XFL team next or 2020 I think is their first season. Maybe a publicity stunt. If we sign Manziel, people know him. He's got some history, not some good history, but or I guess, sorry, not history, publicity. And I mean, when it comes to like a new team or whatever, any publicity is good publicity at that point. And so maybe a team like, in the AAF or the XFL takes a chance on them just to, get their name buzzing in the news or something like that. But in terms of just being like a legit quarterback, NFL, CFL, anything like that, I'm just, I think this is it for him. He's had way too many opportunities and just keeps finding a way to mess it up. So I think it's time that the fans and the leagues just move on from him.
Yeah. Speaking of moving, the Jets are looking to move down in the draft by trading the number 3 pick. Do you think this is a smart move, and who should take an advantage of this offer?
I mean, do I think it's a smart move for the Jets? I only think it's a smart move for the Jets if they end up getting Le'Veon Bell, because obviously signing a player of that caliber is going to take a lot of cap space, and those top 3 picks they signed for some decently sized contracts. So definitely, if that's why they're doing it, and also just to like get more draft picks like in the first round or maybe some more second round or something like that, I could see the logic behind it. But a team that should definitely like try to take them up on this offer. This is kind of a shocker. I think the Chargers might do it. They're I've been reading that they're looking for Philip Rivers' successor, which is kind of surprising because I mean, yeah, you think of a guy like Brady who's in his 40s, and the Patriots are yet to do anything about that, and no one knows that they're going to do anything this year. I mean, Philip Rivers is quite a few years younger, and yet they're already looking for that next option. And I think maybe the Chargers take them up on that, and maybe try to solve that problem right then and there. If Kyler Murray's not taking the first 2 spots, maybe he goes to the Chargers. I don't know. But then maybe a more, I guess, realistic option. You could have the maybe maybe the Cowboys, because they don't have a first round pick this year. I mean, it would take a lot to trade for them, so I don't know if they'd do it, but if they want to get in the first round, potentially. But overall, I think it could be a smart move for the Jets. They just have to find the right deal and obviously make the right moves in free agency.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with you there. It would be a pretty smart move, especially if they did get Le'Veon Bell. Somebody told me today, and I kind of agree with it, that the Jaguars could be a target, especially if they don't get Le'Veon Bell. The Jaguars include their pick in Leonard Fournette.
Ooh, that's
that way,
interesting.
Jets move back in the first round. The Jaguars can help possibly get a quarterback. I mean, if they want Dwayne Haskins, they could jump ahead of the Giants and get him, because it's looking like the Giants are going to take Dwayne Haskins if it's possible. So if the Jaguars are able to do it, I think that's a relatively reasonable trade. Just Leonard Fournette in a first-round pick, kind of moving back, getting Leonard Fournette off that roster, and maybe the Jets give him like a third-round pick. That way they're not losing all the value of Leonard Fournette, but they still get that first, top 3 guy. So anybody that's not like Nick Bosa or somebody else who can get taken first and over or second overall, Quinnen Williams maybe.
Yeah.
But some interesting news came out today. Jason Witten is, thank God, he is leaving the Monday Night Football booth. Unfortunately, he's taking a spot on the Cowboys roster. What do you think of this?
Dude, I saw the amount of money they're giving him to come back, and I guess I don't know if it's more like they signed him to a new deal or if he's just like picking up the one that he left behind. I don't quite know how that worked, but basically his cap hit this year is about to be $5 million. For a fairly old tight end that is, coming off of a year of which he didn't even play. I think that's a very bad look for the fan. Like I don't think the fans are even welcoming it at this point. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, $5 million just seems like a way too much to be paying a guy. Like I said, hasn't played in a year. I don't know how productive he's going to be anymore. Obviously, his best years were when Tony Romo was there. I hate Tony Romo. Call me a hater, whatever.
That's my quarterback, man.
I mean, Jason Witten didn't really do much while Dak Prescott was there, and I don't see them like all of a sudden like shifting the offense to fit his style of play. So I think it's kind of a dumb move, but I guess nostalgia, whatever. Cowboys fans might like it.
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I'm really glad about with this is that he's getting out of the Monday Night Football booth. He was atrocious, and he made Troy Aikman and Joe Buck look like Kevin Harlan and Tony Romo. Like he made him look great. He was terrible in the booth. So hopefully he's better on the field than he was as an analyst. That's about all I can think about it. I don't know how it's going to work. I saw him taking a tight end in the draft, so maybe that eases up on him, lets him get a better tight end for the next year because, they're not getting in the first round. So, Hawkinson, Irv Smith, and probably Noah Fant will all be gone by the time they're picking. So then it's kind of slim pickings for the tight end position. So it could help him, but I'm just glad that he's not on ESPN Monday Night Football anymore. But now, moving back to the young guys, Kyler Murray came out and said that he's not going to work out the NFL Combine and he's just going to do his pro day. So do you think that, he should have or whatever, that he should participate in that draft combine, or just like if you get invited, why would you turn that down?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially since it's come out that he is going to participate in his pro day, like at Oklahoma. I don't see why you wouldn't do like the draft combine. Like that's the thing I'm not getting is that's starting to become a trend. It seems like these players like, oh, I'm gonna skip the draft combine and just do my pro day when like they're already like skipping their bowl games while they're still in college. It's for Nick Bosa's sake, skipping the whole freaking season. Like how much do you need to keep missing to like get to the NFL? Like I think the draft combine is where you really prove yourself. Really, all these people start putting like once you declare for the draft, people start putting things out there for you. I mean, you see all the time the reports about like when Brady was going through the process back in 2000. I mean, can't throw, can't lead a team down the field, and that's like fuels you to to do good in the combine and then make a name for yourself in the NFL. Like you're kind of just like dodging out of the combine for no reason. You're not like he's not hurt. He's not playing baseball. I think it's stupid. And I think it hurts his draft stocks. Even though he deserves to be a high level pick. Or high, yeah, just high pick in general. That's what I meant to say. So it's not a good look for him, and I'm not quite understanding this trend, but I don't know. Maybe it's just stay healthy.
Yeah, I understand the health factor, but as kind of like a little kid, if your dreams to go to the NFL, you'll always see the combine. Deion Sanders has a legendary story about his 40 time. If as a little kid you could imagine that, and I don't understand why you wouldn't want to do it. I guess if you're trying to stay healthy, but the combine's not a place where you really run the risk of like tearing an ACL or something, drastic that could I don't see anything happening. So I'm not understanding why guys won't participate in the combine. Like Lamar Jackson didn't run a 40 time. Dude, everybody want to see how fast you were at your 40 time.
Yeah.
Because not everybody, it's a live thing. People don't really watch pro days. So that, it's a publicity thing too. If you blow it out of the water, have a legendary combine, shoot, your draft stock,
Yeah.
I mean, through the roof. So I don't understand why you wouldn't go to the combine. But, if he has his reasons, you just got to trust him.
Yep, it is what it is at this point.
But do you have anybody in particular that you're looking for at the combine to kind of impress?
Well, a name that we've both already mentioned, Nick Bosa. Is he partaking in the combine first off?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, if he is, which I think he definitely needs to, as I said, he skipped a whole season of football basically. I haven't. I mean, obviously, I don't watch Ohio State, so I don't have a whole lot of
Ugh.
film to look up like as it is, or rather, don't want to because I don't like Ohio State. But everyone's saying, he's obviously the number one overall pick, number two overall pick. Um, so like it's interesting to see like how fast he is, his vertical, all that stuff. I mean, I think it's a guy like that who's got a lot of mystery surrounding him, but yet he's already being pinned as a top two pick. I think he's got he's got to prove himself a little bit to the people that don't watch Ohio State religiously, and there's a lot of bandwagons out there that do. Um, but I think Nick Bosa is a guy I'm looking into, and then also, um, I think some of these tight ends, like I haven't like obviously Hawkinson, Fant, and Irv Smith from Alabama. I haven't really heard or seen like who's better of the three, so I think it'll be interesting to see like who can separate themselves based on like who's the more like speed type tight end because that's becoming a big deal in the NFL now. Um, I think even like the bench pressing stuff's always like cool to watch too. So I think the tight end position in general is just something to look out for, as well as I think Nick Bosa's got to prove himself to be a for sure top two pick.
Yeah. I definitely want to see DK Metcalf
Oh,
because
that's
if,
yeah.
if you've seen any sort of social media around draft, I mean, this dude, the pictures of him, he looks like the Hulk. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I want to see him. I want to see him bench press and do the vertical, physical measurements because look at another
A
guy I want to
unit.
see. Yeah, he's an absolute unit, man. So I want to see him. Another guy. I mean, I do want to see the tight ends. I think Fant should probably run the fastest 40 time. But you also got to look out for these smaller school kind of guys. I watched Antonio Brown's combine. Doesn't look like him. Looks got no hair. And I watched these guys. Aaron Rodgers combine. I watched his a little bit, and it was just like you kind of gotta look at the guys who don't really have their name out there. I mean, obviously, being a 49er, I want to see Nate Davis do well at the
Oh
combine
yes.
and impress.
Shout
But
out
other than that,
Charlotte.
but I do want to see the small school guys. That's who I'm really going to look out for and see who stands out because that's kind of how Byron Jones separated himself when he had the huge broad jump. So
Yeet.
that's kind of what we're looking for, or at least in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
So on to baseball, where big news came out today. Bryce Harper, Mr. Hair Flip himself, got 13 years, $330 million, and zero opt-out chance. What do you think of this?
Okay. First off, yeah, the university and yeah, sorry, I was trying to shout out Charlotte. Anyways, okay, so back to the baseball. Bryce Harper, first off, as stated on previous episodes, I just want to say I called it. He signed with the Phillies. I've said that all along. I thought that's where he was going. So I take some credit for that. But at the same time, I didn't expect 13 years. Just as I was talking with you earlier, I mean, I'm going to be 32 when this contract ends. I'm 19. That's a weird thought to think about. I mean, obviously, he's a very skilled player. People say he's the best or top two.
The best.
Um,
This is the best.
I would agree with you. Mike Trout, Mookie Betts are my top two, but people put Bryce Harper up there. It's just a very interesting situation. He had a kind of a down year last year. He hasn't really done much in terms of like getting that team. He's never made a World Series. I'm not sure if he's made a National League championship or not. But point is, he's kind of been like on the downward, like compared to his like first couple of years. So, and again, you're locking yourselves in for 13 years. Like,
That's
and
not a contract. That's a prison sentence.
exactly, yeah. I mean, like
Especially in Philadelphia.
yeah, like Philly fans are no joke either. If you don't perform in Philly, I mean, you're gonna get a lot of crap from the fans. So I mean, obviously, he'll probably come in, go to spring training, everyone will get hyped. He'll be in the once he puts on the uniform and hits his first home run, all this hype's gonna build about it. But again, if he's not winning anything there, and I think there's no excuse for Philly because they're a stacked team now, especially with adding him. It's gonna be a troubling situation for the next 13 years, especially without a opt out from either side.
Yeah. First reaction, he needs to ensure his hair. Especially if he starts to lose it at 39, when he's done, he probably will have pulled it out. Just having to, especially if they start to suck, dealing with Philly fans for probably about 7 years, in all honesty. So that's the first thing I would do. Second off, why would you not have an opt-out clause? I think that's just dumb. But also for the fact that if you think you're better than Manny Machado, why in the heck are you taking less per year? Like, yeah, the total's higher, but
and it is actually the highest paid professional athlete in the 4 major sports in North America. Like the total that he's making, the $330 million, it passes up Giancarlo Stanton for the biggest contract in sports right now.
Yeah, but I think it's just like I don't want to be in the same place for 13 years. Why would you want to play baseball in the same spot for 13 years?
Yeah,
I don't get it. He's not Mariano Rivera, the unanimous Hall of Famer. So I don't really get why you would say like, oh yeah, I'm going to lock myself up for 13 years. That's almost like a death sentence to me. I wouldn't want to do that. So, congrats to Bryce Harper chasing the bag and securing it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Agreed.
But now more baseball, the pitch clock. Do baseball games take upwards of 3 hours. I mean, I went out, you were watching game 2 of the World Series?
I think it was the one that went, till like 3 a.m. I think that was game
7 hours long.
Yeah, I think that was like game 3, yeah.
But yeah, baseball games are ridiculously long. There's a play clock in the NFL, there's a shot clock in the NBA. Do you think there should be a pitch clock in the MLB?
I think not only does there need definitely yes, they do need a pitch clock for sure. And the reason I say that is I mean, you see the pitchers, they get up there, they'll stand on the mound, be like this, ready to, take the signal from the catcher, and then they step off the mound and they go and they look at the batter or they look at the base runner. They just stare around them, they stall, and it takes it feels like a minute and a half between each pitch sometimes. And yes, it's starting to get a little better, but I just think you throw in a pitch clock, it's a definite thing at that point, and the games do need to be shorter. Like my God, well, that is not the first time I've sat through like a 7-hour game. I'm a crazy enough fan where I'll do it during the regular season. I've watched a Red Sox Yankees game a couple of years ago that went to like 19 innings or something like that. I mean, it is just absolute.
I agree with that, Mr. Scarlett.
Dang. But yeah, I mean, I think a pitch clock is necessary. But also another thing, I guess a curveball I'd like to throw at you. I think that after a certain amount of foul balls, I think it needs to become strikes. Because you have these at bats also where like it's like 17 pitches thrown to one guy because he just keeps fouling it off. And it's like a 3-2 count, and you're just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, that's so annoying.
And I definitely think, I think once you hit that threshold of like, I don't know, maybe like 5, 3, something like that. Like, I definitely think foul balls need to be just a strike. Like, you're not hitting it in play, you're out type of thing, because I think that, along with the whole, the pitching situation where they're just taking their sweet ass time to finally throw a pitch, I think they definitely need to add both those types of rules to speed up the game, because that's how you get more fans back. Some fans don't want to sit 3.5 hours and watch a baseball game.
Yeah, the games take so long. I mean, when seventh inning, if you're on a major league game and they play take me out of the ball game, you're literally out of the ball game because you got to go to work the next day. So that needs to happen. The freaking fly right in front of my face. But yeah, I mean, the pitch clock, I think it'll help. obviously, I like the foul ball idea. I've never really heard of that one before. And Mr. Mascaro, I agree with you. You need to limit the number of crotch grabs, no more than would have ever happened in a Michael Jackson concert. So that's I mean, I agree with that. Guy will go up there, take a practice swing, grab his crotch, and then swing away. So yeah, I think there's definitely different things that could limit the length of a baseball game. But with that being said, do you think it's still America's sport?
Again, I'm sorry, all the baseball traditionists out there. No, it is clearly not America's sport. It is. I would say it's more at this point of a multicultural, like international sport than it is America's sport. Some of the best, or most of the best players out there aren't even American. They're from Cuba or
Dominican.
Dominican. Yeah, I mean, I would, and that's not just the reason I'm saying it's not America's sport. That's just one of the reasons. But also, I mean, clearly the NBA and the NFL is America's sport culture. I mean, the NFL, I think there's not one person out there who doesn't at least watch the Super Bowl. Whether it be the commercials, whatever.
Maroon 5,
But
the
people,
halftime show.
oh yeah. But I mean, like everyone watches at least the NFL. Not everyone sits there and watches the World Series or watches 162 baseball games a year.
Absolutely not.
And then NBA, I mean, that has become not just it's not just a sport anymore. The NBA literally has its own culture, combined with like hip hop and shoes and just clothing in general. I mean, the NBA literally is its own culture. And so I think those two sports, I don't have a pick as to which one. But I think those two sports have definitely like taken the crown of America's sport.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think baseball is, America's you can still say America's pastime, but I don't
Pastime's a
think
better word, yeah.
it does pass time because if you want to fall asleep, baseball or golf. That's not hating on either of those sports. I'm just saying like they take so long. But I think football has more diehard fans as compared to basketball. I think people will live in the
For
city and
sure.
be like, oh yeah, I live in Charlotte. I'm gonna go to a Hornets game. Go Hornets. Woo! Buzz City. But I think football, like, I'll ride or die for the Packers. You'll do the same for the Pats. People live for those teams as compared to the NBA. There's, you said it to, in conversations, you and I, you said that the NBA is more player based, and I'm certainly in the same way. I mean, I fell in love with the NBA through watching Paul George because I was a Pacers fan because Tyler Hansbrough loved him, sucked in the NBA. That's not the point. So yeah, I think that baseball is kind of taking a back seat to football and basketball. So kind of staying on top of the MLB, the Pelicans
or the NBA.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, NBA. The Pelicans are not really playing Anthony Davis. He played 21 minutes and sat the entire fourth quarter last night against the Lakers in a game which they lost by 6. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Less than 10 points.
Yes.
Should they get fined for tanking?
I mean, I want to say yes. Like, the NBA literally is like made rules to take out, the Spurs a couple of years ago, the Heat when LeBron and Wade and all them were there. They put rules in place on purpose to stop teams from just resting their players, just for the hell of it. Like, that's literally what they're doing. They're like, well, we're gonna trade them at the off season or the off season. We don't want to risk them getting hurt because then we get no value for them. So let's just play him 20 minutes a game so it looks like he's playing, and then we'll just sit him the fourth quarter in a game for which we would have won. Like, keep that in mind. First off, back to the whole, the past 2 episodes, we've really stuck it to the Lakers. When Anthony Davis is on the floor, the Pelicans were +4 in that game. When he was off the floor, they were -10. That is a 14 point differential in a game that was decided by single digits. Like, clearly, it's not showing an effort to win, which I mean, I don't get why any team doesn't try to win. Like, I couldn't stand the idea of just purposely losing because we might get the first pick or something like that. I mean, I definitely think Adam Silver needs to at least give them a warning about it. Like, I understand him sitting in a blowout. That's different. But in a game that close, he can't be just playing 20 minutes and not playing the only quarter that actually matters in the NBA.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you. The Pelicans as a franchise have a lot of work to do. I mean, first of all, they play in the Smoothie King Center. That's terrible. The Pelicans, that sucks. I agree with your dad. He said worst place
For sure.
Ever. That's pretty bad. They already changed the mascot like twice because the first one was absolutely terrifying. And then, you know what even is as terrifying as that is them like being good enough and having Anthony Davis to sell tickets, but being bad enough to get a top pick. That's just like you have an MVP type player, and like I would do whatever it takes to try and keep him there. Obviously, he said he wants out, but you know, show why that you're gonna be like a top guy. You know, rather than being like, oh yeah, I'm here. So like, no, you haven't arrived yet. You arrive when you win an MVP, you win a ring, stuff like that. Except for Kevin Durant, you're a snake. So yeah, I think it's kind of dumb. I know, obviously, I don't think he wants to sit, but they're making a business decision, and I can respect the business aspect of it. But as a fan, like if I bought tickets to see them play the Lakers or the Warriors in, you know, New Orleans, I want to see Anthony Davis play the Lakers or the Warriors. You know,
I mean, that's like, literally the point of going. The only reason to go to a Pelicans game is Anthony Davis. Like,
and apparently smoothies.
Yeah, and Smoothie King.
So there you go. But speaking of teams that suck, the Celtics have lost 4 in a row. And Kyrie Irving has said, oh, it doesn't matter. So, you know, do you think he should actually be concerned, or should the team be concerned as a whole?
Dude, first off, Grobe is the GOAT. I just want to put that out there. You guys don't know what we're talking about. We know what we're talking about. Just want to put that out there. I'm sorry. Couldn't help myself. Okay. Kyrie Irving, you're a fraud. Okay. I'm tired. I'm about to go off on this man. I have been very calm for these episodes, and I'm sorry. It's my time to go off. Kyrie freaking Irving, please do Boston a favor. Get out. Leave. Never come back, because you just keep saying, oh, you know, it's just the regular season. We're the 4th, 5th seed. It's fine. We'll get to the friggin' playoffs, and no team's going to beat us in a 7-game series. That is the biggest load. I'm trying not to curse here. That's the biggest load of crap that I've heard all year from any NBA team, because you play like garbage. The team is playing like garbage. And you just expect, oh, yeah, I mean, once the playoffs are in, we're backs against the wall, we're just all of a sudden going to be a great team. No, that's not how this works. We're in basically March. Today is the last day of February. We are in March, okay? The playoffs start in mid-April, I'm pretty sure.
Something like that, yeah.
And you just expect, like, oh, yeah, we'll just be good by then. No. Like, I'd rather you sit out. Also, Gordon Hayward, that is a completely different rant I could go on. I'll save that for another time. But Kyrie Irving, either start getting this team playing good, because you're the leader like you wanted to be when you got traded to Boston in the first place, or just admit it. We suck. We're playing so bad. Yeah, we might win a couple more games for the rest of the season. I'm not saying they're going to go winless or something like that. But just I'm tired of his, like, the way he's talking to the media, and I'm tired of him thinking playing like crap in the regular season's okay to do just because we might do good in the playoffs. Because at this point, if they don't win the finals, those fans are going to kill him.
Yeah. Just needs to shut up. I mean, I think it's pretty set that he's not going to come back. He'll probably go to New York with KD and Zion Williamson. Oh, boy. I don't think that's going to happen either. But it's kind of like an Antonio Brown thing. Like, dude, just shut up.
Oh,
Like, come on, bro.
chill. You gotta chill there.
Yeah, I saw your dad said. But no, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't wish anybody getting hurt, but I think it might be best for the team. Let Scary Terry come back. That way you can wear
Yes.
your shirt that I got you.
Oh, totally.
But yeah, I think he just needs to shut his mouth and just play. Like, this isn't one of those shut up and dribble rants. Like,
No. Not
just
even like that.
stop talking to the media. It's hurting you. It's hurting your value because, like, the way you've seen that picture of him, the way he's looking at the rest of the team, like LeBron looked at him.
He's just like
he's looking for LeBron because nobody on that team can carry him like LeBron did. So that's the first part, and the second part. That's all I got. But speaking of people who just need to sit down, Dirk Nowitzki,
for good.
why would you not retire? Like, dude, he came out and said, oh, he's contemplating not retiring. First of all, you move like a giraffe with no knees, okay? Second of all, you're just go. Like, Doc Rivers literally called a timeout so you could get a standing ovation in LA at a Clippers game. Nobody goes to Clippers games, and yet everybody stood up. So why in the heck would you just be like, oh yeah, farewell till next season, I'm coming back? Like, no, just hang it up. You've hit as many threes and as fadeaways as you need. Your team,
and he has a ring.
Yeah, you got a ring. You beat LeBron for the ring, so there you go.
Wait, no, I think don't the Mavericks. I think he has two.
I don't know.
Early 2000s, maybe. I don't know.
Dude, just hang it up, man. It's your time. You're not going to be Tom Brady. Ugh, I hate saying that. But you're not going to be 42 and 41 and win another NBA Finals. Like,
yeah,
Luka Doncic is not ready to carry your team. Like, you already have your replacement. It's Kristaps Porzingis. He's taller. He's more athletic than you've ever been. But teach him on your way out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because this situation he's running into now is all these like fans and players that have been like, oh, we're gonna miss you. You were so great for the league, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, well, actually, I'm playing again. Like, they're all gonna be like, dude, you did this all for the publicity. Like, that won't be a good situation as is. But then also, the Mavericks, like you said, traded for Kristaps Porzingis, who is a younger and by when it's all said and done, probably will end up being a more talented version of Dirk Nowitzki. And that's not ripping Dirk. Dirk is one of the greatest NBA players we've seen. It's just, I think Kristaps, as long as he recovers properly, he's just a special talent. So I don't see the Mavericks, like, why would they want to re-sign him? They just traded to get his replacement. So if he did come back to the NBA, it very well could be with a different team. And then, like, if he hasn't learned anything from people like Brett Favre or trying to think of some other names, I'll just say Brett Favre for now, not to piss you off, just for the sake of, like, when it's all said and done and you've done everything you can in your career, just hang it up. End it with the team you've been playing with your whole career, and your legacy is fine. Because, Brett Favre, I think he first retired with the Packers.
Yes.
You can correct me if I'm wrong.
He retired with the Packers. Then he skipped 2 years because I don't recognize Jets Brett Favre and what he did there. And then he went to the freaking Vikings. So, yeah, Brett Favre technically retired twice.
Yeah, and I mean, the Saints made sure he retired. That was the situation he ran into.
Yeah.
So I just think Dirk Nowitzki, like, rather than, ending your career on like a serious injury or something along those lines, just end it. The franchise has the pieces to be competitive for the future. That's all you could ever want.
Yeah, and just try and go out like Kobe and drop like 40 and hit like 10 threes in a game on your last one. That's about all I can offer for Dirk. But staying on top of the Mavericks, Luka Doncic turned 20 today.
Happy birthday.
Latvian phenom, where the heck he's from. Somewhere in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, I can't even remember.
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter. It's like a kid was doing geography, and he wrote in Luka Land, number 77, for Luka's home country. I still don't know what it is, but he turned 20 today, so happy birthday. And personally, I think he's on top of the Rookie of the Year standings. I don't see anybody else that's really taking that crown from him. I mean, Marvin Bagley was doing well, and then I think he got hurt last night. But
Yep, he hurt his knee.
yeah, but I haven't really seen anybody that's stepped up to his level and has been like an all-star caliber player for that team.
Yeah. I mean, okay, first off, back when I was saying the whole Bryce Harper thing, like how he, it was weird how he's going to be, or I'll be 32 when his contract's up. Wishing Luka Doncic a happy birthday, and he's only 20, and like I'm not, like I said, I'm 19, you're 19. It's very weird to think that this man is and like you, I'm going to say the top rookie in the NBA. And that's a weird thought. But back on track, I think the only other person who maybe is gonna compete with him for that spot would be Trae Young.
Yep.
But the difference is Trae Young is just starting to, really emerge, and that's not his fault. I mean, he's definitely in a worse situation than Luka Doncic. He's literally having to do all the work. He doesn't really have any veterans around him. So if Trae Young had been doing what he's been doing all season, then it would be a different story. But Luka Doncic, I mean, since day one has been he's been all over ESPN, which, is pretty hard to do when all they do is talk about Zion Williamson and LeBron James. So I give him a lot of credit for that. So I think he's definitely number one in the Rookie of the Year standings. And like I said, the only guy who would give him a run for his money is maybe Trae Young.
Don't forget that they got traded for each other in the draft.
Exactly. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. But now we're moving on to our first actual fan question. Very happy that we got that. So thank you to Colin Crowder for reaching out to us on Twitter and asking us a couple questions that you would like to see answered. I think Drew is trying to put it up on the screen, but if it doesn't work, it's all right. But he asked us 2 questions, and we'll start with the first one. What teams are on watch in MLB?
All right. So, sadly, I can't get it up. I forgot to ask you how to show me how to do it. We'll work on that. It's a learning curve. But back to Colin's question, teams to watch in Major League Baseball. I think especially with this Bryce Harper news, it's 4 teams that there are to watch in Major League Baseball for next year. Red Sox and Yankees, and no, not just because of the rivalry. Red Sox are the defending champs. Yankees, even though they lost in the divisional round, they were also a 100-win team last year and have only added. They didn't really lose much. So I think those are the 2 teams to watch in the American League, and the Phillies and the Mets are the 2 teams to watch in the National League. They have been all up on free agency and making some of the biggest signings they possibly of all the other teams out there. They've really turned it around from 2 teams that didn't even make the playoffs last year. I think they'll definitely both be contending in the National League and may even see each other in the National League Championship.
Yeah, I think maybe not the best teams to watch. I think the Rockies will be interesting because they still have Charlie Blackmon. They just re-signed Nolan Arenado.
They got Story still.
Yeah, they still got Trevor Story. Like, they're a solid team. I think they could be somebody who could make a run later in the season, kind of squeak in the playoffs maybe, and make some noise. I think the Marlins will be fun to watch to see if they actually break the record for most losses in an MLB season. So that would be fun to watch because they'll probably get 10 runs scored on them every game.
Yeah.
But other than, those 2, I think that the teams you mentioned, I think the Phillies will be fun to watch, especially with Bryce Harper,
for sure.
Strikes out, throws the helmet, and hair goes flying everywhere. So
blames his teammates.
Yeah. That'll get him ran out of Philly real quick. But, I think every team that you mentioned, I don't personally watch a whole lot of baseball, but I'm always at work too. So, but those 4 or 5 teams, besides the Marlins, don't watch the Marlins.
Do yourselves a favor, please.
Yeah, don't watch it. That's like watching the 0-16 Browns. Don't do it. But yeah, those are the teams that you should probably watch in MLB if you actually want to watch good baseball. But yeah, so kind of the big heater question that we saw him ask us is Colin wants to know our opinions on what should college athletes get paid.
All
I'm gonna
right.
let you take this first.
You want me to go first? All right. So obviously, I mean, this has been a huge question since. I mean, I've been seeing it since like my sophomore year of high school, and it's probably been even around longer than that. But that's when I think it really started to take off and become a huge like debate. And I've kind of traded sides ever since that. People have been talking about it. I've kind of flipped between the two. But now that I've worked with two college teams, since we got to Charlotte, I've been a part of, working with the basketball team and now working with football. And just seeing, I mean, I see how much time they put in. I see the way they're treated, by, their staff. And, they get basically what I'm trying to say is, along with the fact that they get free tuition and housing and parking and all that, they
I don't
also
know about
like.
parking.
Oh, I don't know about. Okay, sorry, I don't know about parking, but housing and tuition at least. Um, and then their food is basically covered. I'm pretty sure they get a meal plan. They also get food after every game. Um, at least basketball did. And I saw the spread they had this morning with football. I'm sure that's a regular thing as well. And again, this is just Charlotte, a smaller D1 school, I'd say, in terms of sports. Um, I'm sure it's a lot better at some of these other, these SEC schools like Alabama or, a team like Notre Dame for football, like
Oh,
something
get
like
out of
that.
here.
I'm just saying, a private school especially. I mean, I just think they get enough, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, they're putting in all this time, they're earning all the money," and like, I don't think people realize how much time coaches put in too. Like, coaches aren't just there when the players are practicing; they're there all day, um, preparing these teams to be in the best position they can be, recruiting on the road. Um, there's a lot more that they do. And obviously, I mean, yes, they get paid because that's their career. Um, but I think college athletes just with the amount of compensation, well-deserved compensation, but with the amount of like, they get stipends, housing thing, the tuition. I just think they get enough, in my opinion, at least from what I've seen and experienced, and it may be different at different schools, but just from what I've seen and what I've done research on, I just think they don't need to be getting paid, but you might have a differing opinion on that.
So I've kind of went back and forth with myself many times on this argument. And after working with football for a couple years now, seeing how it works, seeing these guys get up so early and then they have study halls and they have meetings and you still got to watch film and then get your homework done on top of that. I mean, if you have an engineer, Bryce Love at Stanford is trying to become a doctor while also having to get up at 5 o'clock, weightlifting, all this crap. Yes, they need to get paid. Now, that's not saying they deserve like a high paying salary, but I think, even if it's increasing their stipends, I think, but also not making it like public knowledge. Like that's not something you can tell recruits. I think that it should just be a stipend kind of upgrade almost. And the fact that, and it should be like Power Five teams, those guys get the same amount. And then, like, obviously, if you have a guy who has an offer from, UNC Charlotte, Lehigh, Marshall, and Alabama, they're probably going to go to Alabama. So I
Yeah.
think the D2 teams, smaller D1 schools, non-Power Five, then they should have their own kind of set thing, because obviously your best players are going to go to the best schools. The next best guys, at least coming out of high school. I'm not saying like guys, who go to small schools aren't good,
Hmm.
but like they should be deserving of more, because I mean, Alabama and Clemson, they bring in billions in revenue, billions on billions on billions of revenue.
Billions of dollars.
And it's absurd that the NCAA is making so much money off of these guys and they're not getting any of it back. Because what the thing is, like, yes, the school gives them tuition, but that's also tuition and all that stuff is taxpayer dollars that go into the school, as well as the money that other students are paying to the school, helps to fund these scholarships and programs and construction and stuff. So yeah, I think the NCAA.
Shout out Brian.
Yeah, Crystal Cove, baby.
Crystal Cove.
But I think it's kind of ridiculous how much money these guys bring in. And again, I'm not saying these guys need like $10,000 salaries. I think that would be ridiculous and unfair to everybody else who's a doctor, engineer major, business major. It doesn't really matter, but the fact that these guys have to get up and put in so much extra work on top of what they already have to do for school, I don't think, now that's just football speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it should be like an incentive program to stay in school for longer. Maybe like your first year you get $50 after every game. I don't know how it was much for basketball, but that's just like a base number. And then if you're a sophomore, or a redshirt freshman, you get a little more money, 75. That would also help do away with guys who want to leave after their sophomore year. So, I think it's kind of like, I hate the one and done rule in college basketball. I think it ruins it. So, I want those guys to get their fair share because they put in so much time, and people are like, oh, they get free tuition. Like, that's not money that they draw in. Obviously teams that don't sell tickets at all, like, they're not drawing in as much revenue, but the conferences as a whole, they get money from that, and that would also have teams try and join conferences like Notre Dame. It would probably push them to put their football team in the ACC, because if a team is independent, well, their revenue is just going back into them, and then it's not fair. It becomes mandatory that 30% of all revenue made from your football team goes back into the players. Well, then Notre Dame's money is all going back into them, rather than the whole conference's, the money that the whole conference made goes back into it as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, again, I have to reiterate that I'm not saying these guys deserve like professional level contracts, because they're not professionals. They're kids, just like you and I, grown kids, but kids nonetheless. So, like, I hate people who are just like, oh, it's, they get tuition and I have to pay tuition. Like, shut up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, like, and that's not where I was trying to go with that part of my argument. Because obviously, like, I'm not gonna sit here and complain like, oh, I'm a student just like you, I deserve to get paid. Like, no, that's stupid. That's nonsense. But what am I trying to say? I think if it were to be a paid situation, like you said, it needs to be more like maybe an increased stipend rather than like a salary or something like that. But also it definitely needs to be case by case, not just by like conference or division or anything like that, but by sport. And see, that's where there's a lot of problems, because then you go into the whole, Title IX argument, with, if a male sport's getting paid more than a female sport, that kind of thing. But also just clearly for most schools, football brings in the most revenue, and you can't pay like football the same as basketball or something like that if they're not earning the same. Because I mean, yeah, they put in the same amount of like time and stuff. I'm not saying, one puts in more effort than the other, but obviously one brings more revenue to the school. Um so I definitely think it'd be a case by case basis. And also just cuz with basketball, like you said, there's the one and done thing. You play for a year, the next year you're making millions as a rookie. Like, whereas with college football, you're there for at least 3 years. So that's why I'm saying it's a case by case thing, not just because like I said with the whole Title IX thing. That's again a completely different like headache to deal with. But
Yeah.
that's why it's definitely, if they were to get paid, it's got to be case by case, and they'd have to do like a lot of extensive research into that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, it's a huge debate, and obviously, like, I want to see everybody get their fair share. Yes, football players, at Clemson bring in so much more money than, say, their women's rowing team. But, those people are athletes too. They're busting their ass just like everybody else. So obviously, I think it should be kind of like a breakdown, and then like obviously every athlete shouldn't get the same thing, but I don't think it should be based on like maybe by sport and whatnot, but just like for everybody who gets up early, busts their tail at practice in the weight room, studying, going to practice again, meetings, and all that stuff is the reason why I think everybody should get paid almost the same thing, and then, a freshman gets paid this, redshirt freshman gets paid that, just the more experience you have, it also should be an incentive. That way the university is getting the most out of these players. They're getting the most out of the university, and because you see guys who go back to school, kind of like Larry Fitzgerald, who left after his junior year, maybe if you wanted that, or somebody who maybe might go in like the late 5th or 6th round in the NFL draft, maybe they stay another year because they might not get drafted or they'll get cut because I saw this, more undrafted players in the NFL make it to or are on rosters right now than the players that were drafted in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds combined. So, maybe you do take that risk, make your money, and then you have the extra motivation like, okay, I got my education. Now all I can do is focus on my craft, on my sport of choice, whether you want to make it to the league or you want to make it to the Olympics in case you're a swimmer, rower, freaking hockey player. I don't care. But there's so many like people who just do go above and beyond in their 4 or 5 years at a university that people like you and I mean, I go to the gym every day, but I'm not getting up at 5. I mean, we are now. Also, another point, student workers need to get paid. I saw what you were doing with basketball and they weren't paying you. It's a load of crap because you did so much more work.
I'm going to comment on it.
Yeah.
I'll let you be my voice for that.
Those athletes, just like any student who contributes to a revenue producing like sport, honestly, needs to get their fair share because they're putting in more extra work for themselves than normal average students. And that's about all I have to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I wanted to add, and I guess it's not quite related to like it definitely is related, sorry. About what you were saying, how it should be incentivized based on like how long you're there and stuff. The thing I really liked about that point, because I haven't really heard it described like that, is it very well could counter the whole one and done thing. Because something that really pisses me off, and I don't know if this happens as much in the NFL as much as it does the NBA, especially the NBA, is like players get like, it's almost like they're frowned upon for staying 4 years and playing for the school that they love and, staying in college and getting their freaking degree. Like, why do we make these kids feel like you're not allowed to stay and like you just have to get out as soon as possible? Because like, not only does it screw them over if God forbid they get like a career-ending injury or something, but it's really ruining some of the greatest rivalries of all time. I mean, UNC, I give loads of respect to them for the fact that, for the most part, they keep their players for at least 3 years. Whereas with Duke, every freaking player they have, good or not, minus surprisingly like Grayson Allen, they leave after like 1 year. My point is, it ruins rivalries because, back in the day, you should be like, the same kids were playing each other like 3 years in a row. It was cool to see them go at it because they really like, especially a guy like Tyler Hansbrough, like you mentioned, like he hated Duke. You could see that. You don't really see that anymore in college basketball rivalries because they're all leaving after a year. And if they have that incentive to stay and they're getting paid more for staying longer, that's where I think that's actually a really great idea, and it could save some of this, bull crap that we're seeing where it's just one and done, ruining the rivalries type thing.
Yeah, because, and I thought of that, and I hate this guy with every ounce of my body, but Grayson Allen reinvigorated my hate for the Duke Blue Devils.
For sure, yeah.
And he's one of the most despicable basketball players I've ever watched in my life, but he made me want to watch Carolina Duke every freaking time.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see, is he going to trip somebody else? And Brian can attest, you can attest, I lived with you guys last year. I screamed at Carolina Duke.
He still does.
Yeah, dude. But like, seeing those guys and they piss you off or they make you love them for 4 years, that's much more meaningful to me as a fan rather than like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, I got to see Zion Williamson, but like, oh, well, now he's in the NBA. Cool.
Right? Like,
what new guy do we have next? Or Kentucky. I mean, these teams that recruit one and done type of guys, if you're not the guy who produces, like Devin Booker, I think he came off the bench, but he knew he had to leave because if he stayed another year, he would get buried on
more guys.
Like, he would get buried on the bench, and then he probably wouldn't play.
And he'd get in trouble for going to the NBA draft as a sophomore rather than a freshman.
Yeah, and then your draft stock tanks because you're not as old. And that leads into a whole another debate.
We'll have to save that debate for another episode.
Yeah,
because I mean,
again,
that's something I could go off on for sure.
Yeah. But again, I do think it should be incentivized and like evenly distributed because everybody does do their fair share and they pay their dues. So yeah, like they do need to get paid, but not on the scale that people think they should, I think. So that's about all we have for Fans with Attitude. Thank you for coming in, hanging out, Brian and Ed Piscario. We appreciate you making us laugh in the chat. It's a
huge
good time.
Shout out to Colin Crowder for the questions, by the way.
Yeah,
we invite that. Please provide us with some questions, and we can have debates like that more often.
Especially when the news kind of gets dry and we almost had to talk about hockey.
Help!
I know nothing about hockey. My quote would be, "You know how they do it in hockey? Let's do that hockey," to quote Chance the Rapper. So thank you guys for so much love and support, hanging with us on this journey. Hopefully we can make it big. But until next time, I'm Daniel.
I'm Drew.
And that's it for Fans with Attitude. Peace.
Peace.